Hello, my name is Derrick Mason. I'm a free principles facilitator and speaker, and I'm going to try my best to answer these four questions. And the first one is, could you briefly share what your life looked like before you had your first insight into the free principles? How long have you got? What my life looked like? Well, I got this understanding when I was in prison, serving a 5-year sentence. And yeah, what my life looked like, everything was a struggle, basically. Everything looked like a struggle on how I showed up, on with relationships, with fruit. Life was just a struggle, everything about life. And when I got this insight in prison, I wasn't really looking for anything. I wasn't looking for a change in myself. If anything, I was looking for more of what I'd been looking for all of my life, like answers from outside of me to make up for why I was the way I was. Never really looking for answers in myself to answer that question. And yeah, my life has been a struggle. I've been to prison numerous times for numerous different offenses. And I didn't see that as being something wrong. I didn't see that as being, I saw it as the only way, my only way to get through the struggles. So I had to struggle to get through the struggles. And that was the way life was. And even when I was in prison, probably at a real low spot in my life, low self-esteem, low opinion of myself, which is something that I've had about myself mainly all my life. And to know that I could see something new, or so I could see something new in myself without having to take anything from outside to fix me, because I never was broken. Thinking that I have to fix something that's not broken is probably going to lead to that not working to the best of its ability. And I think that's what it was like for me. Going through life, seeing myself as broken, seeing life as hard, seeing life as a struggle, and led me to the decisions that I made, which probably led to more struggles and more hardship. But it was all I knew. And even saying that, it wasn't all I knew. It was all I could think. It was all I thought I could do. And by that, I've just set myself up in the barrier. I've just limited myself. But all my life, I never see that I was limiting myself, thinking I was drawing to my strengths. But all I was doing is, in effect, limiting myself. And to see the difference in the life of crime that I lived for the best part of 30 years and how I just judged through that and just carried on, thinking that the solution would always be at the end of on the other side of the hill. The solution's always at the destination. And that's what I aimed for, always to get to the destination. What was your first insight? Well, my first insight was I was in group once and somebody came into the group. It was 3 weeks into the group, and somebody came into the group saying that they had an insight and it had changed their life. And this was the most amazing group they'd ever been on. And I'd been to all the groups that person had been to. So I wanted to know what they heard so that I could say it changed my life. Because my understanding of life at that time was, if you heard something that changed you, then I need to listen to it and it can also change me. Not really understanding the separate nature of realities. So one of the mentors on the group said to me, it doesn't work like that. You have to hear something for yourself that means something to you. And that don't make sense. But he explained to me that when we talk about insight, it's a sight from within. It's something that you see or you hear that is relevant to you. And don't try to over intellectualize it. So don't try to make everything make sense when you hear it in these groups. Just sort of just let it wash over you and don't put a meaning on it, or don't think that you know what everything means, which is total opposite to everything I've known in life. Like I said, before I got this understanding, if you said something to me, then I had to make sense of it. I had to know what it meant in that moment, categorize it, so I know, so I could understand what I was hearing or make sense of it in that exact moment I'm hearing it. But I was told not to do that, just to let it just wash over you. Just sit in the group and let the words that are being said just wash over you like music. And I was like, that don't make sense. But the way the person came in and said it had changed their life, I knew how I wanted some of that. And so I thought I'll give it a try. And we had the group. Then I went back to my cell. Like I said, I was in prison at the time when we was running these groups. So I went back to my cell. And later on that evening, I was watching some show on TV. I don't remember what the show is. I don't remember what was said, but it sort of married up to something that I had heard earlier in the group that didn't make sense to me. And my old way, I would have flipped through my Rolodex of what I know, married it to the closest thing that looked like it, and said that's what that person was trying to say. But I left it open, as the person said. And when I heard something on TV, for some reason, it matched up to what was said in the group in a different context. And I don't know why, but it came to me as, it's not my mum's fault. Everything that I've been through is not my mum's fault. All the decisions that I've made and all the bad decisions that I made were not down to my mum. They were down to me, because I always had the choice or the option in the moment to see something else. And when I saw that, it literally made me sit up in my bed, because I didn't know I had that thinking that it was all my mum's fault. So the moment I saw that, it sort of released me, or it gave me a freeing feeling that there ain't nobody in control. It's all down to me. And any other situation that I would look into where I had blamed other people or I put it on somebody else, in that moment of my insight, it was beautiful, because I saw that it was all down to me, and it didn't say anything about me. It only spoke about my thinking in that moment. And somehow that just released me from a whole load of thinking that I had had about who I was, and truly understanding that I was, and I still am, like a blank canvas. How I show up now, today, in this moment, only ever comes down to how I choose to show up. Whereas previously, I would have blamed, I'm showing up like this because that person said that to me, or that person done that to me. So that's why I'm showing up like this. And that's just this, that's taking away that's disenfranchising myself from the powers that I have to take control of how I show up and fully understand that. And since seeing that everything rests with me, it showed me so deep on such a shallow level as well, because my first insight was basically I didn't have to commit crime. I didn't have to live the life that I'd been living. And that came with such a relief that I didn't even know that would come with. Because somebody could have told me that I didn't have to sell drugs, or somebody could have told me I didn't have to commit crime to survive. Everything that I thought I knew would have gone against it. But somehow me feeling and seeing that for myself, it released me from the boundaries or the barriers that I had set myself. And I often say it's like if I had put all of everything that I could ever achieve, it would fit on a pinhead. So the previous 30 years of my life have been lived on a pinhead of what I think I can do. But when I got that insight, I turned around from that pinhead and I saw the vastness of the universe. And I realized that is what I could do. That is what I could be. The pinhead had always only limited me by my thinking of what I could do. And even now, I'm just exploring that same thing now, which leads us on to the third question, which is how has your life changed and your practice changed since gaining a new understanding based on the three principles? How has my life changed? Wow. Well, physically, it's changed immeasurably because I don't do what I used to do before. I don't see life how I used to see life before. And now I'm just living off of that blank canvas. I'm at the mercy of the universe, showing up wherever I can, however I can, and knowing that that's okay. And now, like I said at the beginning, I'm a three principles facilitator. I run three principle workshops. I give talks, three principles based talks. My relationships are much better. And things are still a struggle. Things can still be a struggle. But it's about knowing that the struggles don't last forever. If I can see through the nature of the struggles, then it won't last forever. And how I see through the nature of those struggles is by knowing that I'm good enough and always knowing that I always have been good enough. And my thinking in the moment never says anything about who I am. Never says anything about who I am. So how do you see this understanding changing the field of mental health and our understanding of the human spirit? Well, talking on a personal level, I know that my mental health or my mental well-being has always been intact and it's always been there. And for 90% of my adult life, before I got this understanding, I would have thought it was lived in mental illness and 10% was lived with mental health. But not knowing where that came from made it seem that way. But now I know where my well-being or my mental wellness, now I know where that lies. I know that I can live a life where I'm 60, 70% living in the mental wellness and the rest is the struggles. But I can live with that because I know that the struggles ain't lasting. And my natural default position is that natural mental wellness. And I know anytime I'm not feeling that, I just have to settle because we as humans, we settle into our natural, we settle into our mental wealth. We have to do something to detach ourselves from that. And when I realize that, then I know I can sit in it as often as I like. I might not be able to sit in it all the time, but like I said, that's okay. And even to talk about my insight, my first insight, it so much comes down to the human spirit. And I thought I had a psychological shift, but I've seen this is all to do, it's the same thing, the human spirit. I had a spiritual shift and it sort of opened me up to the connection, to the wisdom, to the love, to the compassion, to all of those things I was naturally innate. They all innately reside in me. And the only time I kind of get separated from that is when I tell myself I'm not a part of it. Or I tell myself I'm fighting against a system, which is basically me. And it only took one insight, that one insight that I followed, knowing that there's nobody else to blame. There isn't even anyone to blame. It's just me living my life to the best of my ability in what makes sense to me in the moment. And if I know, or if I can try to remember that my spirit and my psychological well-being are intrinsically linked, they are one, and my spirit can never be broken or damaged or taken away from me, then I know that I'll always be okay. On the surface, I might not feel okay, but inherently, I know underneath that is my healthy human spirit, which will carry me through any situation and will allow me to show up how I need to show up in that moment. And it's about having trust in that, which makes me sort of be able to say, I love life. And I'm not saying I love my life, I'm saying I love life. And by default, I am saying I love my life. Thank you.